Hey everyone. So this is day one of mastering the game of allyship. Today we're going to focus on a few things. First, the foundational technique that's going to guide you through this entire process, the 3-2-1 shadow process. We're going to be building over this over the next 30 days. So if you don't get it right off the bat, don't worry, you're going to have tons and tons and tons of time to practice this. And then we're also going to introduce our first character that we're going to use to develop our skills in allyship. So the first thing we want to talk about is the 3-2-1. What is the 3-2-1? Our 3-2-1 stands for third person, second person, first person. So in human development, as we sort of grow, we first inhabit a level of development. You can imagine this as like a fish living inside the water. The fish is inhabiting the water. It can't see the water. It's too merged with the water to understand that there's any other experience outside of that. Then let's say the fish, turns into an amphibian. And the level 2 stands for dialogue. So in dialogue, there's a back and a forth. It's the ability to sort of move between two perspectives with words. In this particular metaphor that I've been using, the amphibian's ability to go on land for a little bit, go back into the water, and the ability to take these two perspectives, water and land. And then the third perspective is exactly that. It's the ability to recognize that there is something else outside of your experience. So as you grow up, you're identified with a experience or a level of development. Then you become in dialogue with it as you sort of transition, and then you're able to take that level of development that you just left as an object. So 3-2-1 allows us to reverse that process. So anytime that you see something in your field of awareness, you have the ability to recognize it, dialogue with it, and ultimately inhabit it. And in doing that, you can take its perspective such that you can get any insights that it has. Because until you've inhabited a perspective, the only insight that you can gain will be outside in. So why is this useful? Well, it turns out that there are tons and tons and tons of parts of us that we either can't see because we're too identified with them, or that we can see, but we don't really have the skills or the techniques to sort of mess around with. And so it's really hard for us to learn anything new about the state of things. So we use 3-2-1 with the sort of role-playing techniques that we're going to use in creating characters and inhabiting roles to allow us to kind of call our shots. So right now, we are learning how to be allies. So right now, we've already established that there's this concept called ally that kind of exists outside of us. To want to become an ally, you'd have to admit that maybe I'm not the ally that at least that I want to be. So what we're going to do is practicing imagining, what does that ally do? What do they look like? What actions do they take? We're going to dialogue with that description of an ally and see, okay, what do they need to experience to get good at those skills? What personality traits that they need to inhabit so they can do that, so we can get that information. And ultimately, the last step will be to inhabit the experience of being that ally, wherein doing those actions becomes easy because you are now no longer discursively interacting with it. You have become it. And we're going to do this for a lot of different parts of us because there are parts of us that do not want to be an ally. And instead of fighting against those parts, we can do the exact same process to find out why it is they don't want to be an ally. What are the things that are getting in the way of that? And by taking their perspective, figuring out what are the things that this part of us would need to maybe make the shift in the direction that we want to go. So I'm really excited to sort of share the specifics of this. I'm actually going to put that in a document. The process is very simple. And so I'm going to kind of guide you through my own process of this so you can kind of see a little bit how this works in action. I'm also going to include the 3-2-1 Thrival Guide. This will sort of just teach you aspects about the 3-2-1 that is good to know as you sort of jump into this work. So the 3-2-1 can be done in a number of ways. The one I recommend is journaling, having some sort of online journal, be a Google Doc, notes app, something that is easily accessible for you so that you can do your 3-2-1s whenever something sort of arises. Again, for this container, the homework every day is really just going to be doing 1 3-2-1. But what you'll find is as you clear up that emotional energy that the 3-2-1 allows you to clear up, you might want to use it for other things in your life. And I honestly highly recommend it. The more practice you get doing 3-2-1s, the easier it's going to be to inhabit these different perspectives and to really train that ally character that we're building. So that's just something that I highly recommend. You can do it with voice. Some people are just not natural writers. They like to speak things out. You can use your voice memo app on your phone. And once you get really good at it, you can actually do 3-2-1s in your head. That's well beyond where we're at, but I just kind of wanted to give you an opportunity to sort of see how this can be integrated in your life, because this will be key to getting you to that stage of being the master ally. So now that we've talked about that, I want to transition a little bit into our first character. First character that we're going to be dealing with this week is the student character. Before you take on any sort of knowledge of learning how to inhabit a new character, you really want to find out how it is you best learn. Again, I'm going to be your guide through this process, but ultimately you're going to be these insights are going to be self-generated. You're going to be encountering the part of you that wants to learn, figuring out the things that they need to learn, identifying the parts of them that are holding them back from learning, and ultimately making the steps to make the changes in your life that make that process easy and fun. Because if it becomes easy and fun to learn how to be an ally, that shrinks down the time that it'll take for you to inhabit the perspective of an ally. So that's what we're going to do for the first week, just so that we can make sure that you get as much practice as you can on your 3-2-1s. So what we're going to do, and I'm going to give you the instructions for this in a document below this video, is you're going to just go through this journaling process. I want you to imagine what your ideal situation is as a student. Some people, it's like, oh, I want to listen to a lot of lectures. Some people want to read books. Some people kind of want to get more experiential things. But really just get into your mind and use all of your senses to describe in the third person what you think the ideal student for you, that would be easy for you to inhabit, looks like in this container. Is it someone that shows up every single day? Is it someone that does more or goes above and beyond the call of duty? Is it someone that just is able to knock out the 15 minutes? It doesn't really matter. Any one of those will work, because the next question that we'll ask after we've described what that student self looks like is we're going to, in the 2 phase, the dialogue phase, we're going to ask a series of questions. But I'm not going to give you those questions just yet. For today's homework, I just want you to describe your ideal student self in as much detail as possible. We're going to do this over 15 minutes. So you're going to spend 5 minutes describing them. You're going to spend 5 minutes just being in dialogue with them. It could be as simple as, hi, how are you? What's going on? It's going to feel weird at first because your brain might not be used to being in dialogue with yourself. That's why we're going to take these baby steps. But just, again, kind of simulate a conversation. What does that person sound like? What words do they use? What information do they want you to know? And just practice being both sides of this discussion between you as you are right now and your ideal student self for the duration of this container. And then the last step will be to try and speak from the perspective of your ideal student self. What are they thinking about? How do they feel about showing up in this container? How do they feel about you? This is your opportunity to really take a perspective that's not you and kind of see how a part of you might feel about what you're doing. What do they think would need to change about your life in order to take these next steps and to become the ally that you want? So again, there will be detailed instructions after all of these videos. The point of these is really just to give you opportunity to hear the words and then see them and then take action. And I'll go ahead and include the just container Mastering the Game of Allyship Thrival Guide as sort of a bonus video. These are the things that you're going to want to see that's going to guide you and help you throughout this process. Because we're going to be taking very basic steps and adding onto each other. So at the beginning, it might seem slow, but I promise you, by the time we get to some of the harder work, you're going to be very glad that you've knocked out these fundamentals.